Hey, what's going on YouTube? Today is Tuesday, December 31st, which means it's New Year's Eve! But that's not what we're here to talk about today, actually. We're here to talk about something a lot deeper. Calling all 90s kids! Now, if you remember the original series of Pokemon, your trading cards looked like this, and your first game was played on something that looked like a brick, then this applies to you. So I was talking to some friends a while back, and we were like, what would possess your character in the Pokemon game, or Ash Ketchum, either one, to get up one day and be like, I'm leaving town. Right now. I mean, they're only like 12. You're not old enough to go out on your own yet. You're 12! Well, we came up with an ingenious answer. So go get some popcorn, strap yourself in. It's gonna be a wild ride. The short answer is this. On another continent somewhere, there is a war going on. A massive war. The reason that your character has to leave home so young is because on the home front, which would be the Kanto region, no other regions are even considered here because that ruins the whole thing. And let's be honest, as soon as they started moving past Mewtwo, there are too many Pokemon. Kids have to leave their homes early so they can go out and begin training Pokemon so that when the draft comes, then they'll be ready to go into the Pokemon Wars. Now, I know a lot of you were just like, with all the things that screw up this plan. Trust me, we thought this out. We thought of them all. So, at the age of 18, all of the males on this region are drafted into the military to go fight in the Pokemon War, which is why all the nurses and all the police officers are female. The trainers that you encounter that are males have escaped the draft somehow, which actually, there are very few of them. I could put them all on this list, excluding the ones associated with gyms, because we'll get to gyms later. Said trainers are the hikers, the gamblers, the electricians, the bikers, the Pokemaniacs, the beast tamers, the martial artists, the soldiers, the Team Rocket grunts, the master trainers, and the swimmers. All the rest of them are either young, being campers and like the kids and the young swimmers and things like that, or are female, which is actually a lot of them. So why are these trainers able to escape the draft? Well, see, I thought of that too. The gamblers, they're all old men. They can't fight. Electricians, I mean, stuff's gonna break, and you need to make sure that your home front infrastructure is well equipped to handle a war effort. The bikers, they're delinquents. They don't even care if they get drafted. They're just gonna stay anyway. The Pokemaniacs, they're kind of teenagers actually, so they qualify as too young for the draft still. The beast tamers, well, they're out catching Pokemon and taming them for the war effort. Now the soldiers, technically they're associated with Lieutenant Surge, but I wanted to bring this up specifically because they obviously didn't escape the draft. They're soldiers, but in Lieutenant Surge's gym, one of them says, it literally says it in the game. Now the Team Rocket grunts, they fall in the same category as bikers. They don't care. Okay, they don't care. The master trainers, they are like 17 and a half. They're ready for the war. They've been training since they were 12 and they're ready to go. The hikers and the swimmers, they are conservation agents who stay in the Kanto region in order to make sure that all the Pokemon are breeding properly and they're not being overcaught. And then we have the martial artists who, they're sort of like an immune to the draft group. Sort of like in the United States, the Amish are immune to the draft, so are the martial artists. They're like a separate group of people that have dedicated their lives to fighting. Peacefully though, Shaolin monks. And that's why they don't get drafted. So now we move on to the gyms. Now, gyms were kind of tricky to come up with a theory for, but we finally did, and I think it's probably a pretty good argument. You see, you got all these 12-year-olds that are preparing for the war because they know they're going to get drafted, and they need to train. So you got to give them a goal. You got to keep the morale up. If you can go around and you can train your Pokemon to be powerful enough to collect all these badges, then you get to come and fight these famous trainers. You have the Elite Four. And if you can beat the Elite Four, you are a boss. They would automatically be promoted to a commanding rank. Now, when you leave Pallet Town, Professor Oak asks you to fill out this encyclopedia called the Pokédex. All of our soldiers get this little thing in their hand called a Pokédex, where they can just be like, okay, what's that Pokemon and what's its weakness? Bam! Took it out right there. And the researchers at Cinnabar Island are researching ways to bring up extinct Pokemon like Kabutops and Omastar that can just destroy everybody. And Bill, when you first meet Bill, he turned himself into a Clefairy. If you can turn all of your soldiers into Dragonites, there's no war anymore, because you just won it, son. Now, Silph is a very large influence on the game as it gives you a Master Ball, which is able to catch any Pokemon, and that's how you get your Legendary. Well, see, Silph was working on that for the government, because the government wants a Pokeball that they can give their soldiers that allow them to catch other trainers' Pokemon. Mewtwo was built in a lab, and he was supposed to become a super weapon until he rebelled and then just hid in that cave. Our planet that you find Zapdos in was bombed by the enemy forces with large flying Pokemon, which is why it is no longer working, and the electricians are there to attempt to repair it. The Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town is a giant funeral home for all the Pokemon that died in the war. The Safari Zone was built in order to protect the Pokemon that are becoming endangered because of the war. Pokemon Mansion is in ruins because it was ransacked by the government when they found out that the guy who was living there was actually supporting Team Rocket, which was a bad thing because Team Rocket is sort of like the home front guy that are trying to ruin everything and just get rich off the war. The SS Anne, which is that fancy cruise liner, is for the rich people, and the government is trying to pitch them the idea of, hey, you should buy war bonds and support the war effort. Now lastly, it brings me to the war itself. If we have these titanic creatures that can shoot hyper beams out of their faces, why do we need people to fight in the war? Well, it's simple. For 3 reasons. First reason is Pokemon fight better when they're being directed by a trainer. A cool third party with a level head to tell them what to do when they're in the chaos of a fight. Reason number 2. Pokemon are unable to kill other Pokemon, which is why if I have my Charizard and I'm like, Charizard, use Blast Bird on that Rattata, it will obliterate that Rattata. But it still always says Rattata fainted. By some mystical force, Rattatas cannot be killed. It's because Pokemon can't kill each other. They can make each other faint, though, which is why we need humans, a third party, that are able to kill other Pokemon. And finally, reason number 3. If you have a Pokemon out there, and they're fighting, and we have 2 trainers telling their Pokemon what to do, if you just killed the other trainer, then his Pokemon is going to be a failure, and is not going to know what to do in a fight because it's going to be so emotionally distraught this trainer just died, and then you could just take it out. It becomes so much more simple. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The truth behind Pokemon that Nintendo didn't want you to know. I know you liked this video, so I know you're going to click that little button down there that says like, and I know you're going to like all the other ones, and that's why you're going to hit that button that says subscribe. You're going to become so obsessed with this channel that you're just going to tell all your friends that they need to watch it too. So yeah, stay tuned for more. See you next time.